Hello everyone, I hope you are doing well and having a great Tuesday so far. We don't have a whole lot to talk about in today's update, but we're going to be talking about what we could potentially expect over the next couple of weeks, especially with the pattern. But we're also watching the potential return of a severe weather risk maybe sometime next week, as we could have some moisture return back into somewhere in the south, central, or even southern US as a whole. But that'll be about the main topic for today's video, and we'll just be discussing what we again could potentially expect for temperatures and moisture over the next couple of weeks. So first, starting out with the 6 to 10 day temperature outlook. This is the latest update from today, and so the Climate Prediction Center is somewhat confident in above average temperatures into quite a bit of the eastern and central, or portions of the central US, but more confidence is higher, into the extreme southern US, and then into a small area into North Dakota, South Dakota, Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Iowa, as well as a small area out here into the northwestern US. And then if we look to the southwestern US, we have an area of below average temperatures expected, and then into a small area up into the northeast into Maine for that 6 to 10 day range. Then looking at the 6 to 10 day precipitation outlook, most of the country could see above average precipitation, with that being an exception into a small section of New Mexico and West Texas as well, and then some areas around that could see near normal precipitation values. So then finally looking at the 8 to 14 day outlook, again this was updated today, and for the next 8 to 14 days, above average temperatures are expected into maybe some portions of the central US and south central US, as well as the southern Florida peninsula. And then looking out to the western US, quite a bit of the western US could see below average temperatures for that, again, 8 to 14 day range. And then looking at the precipitation outlook, again for the 8 to 14 day range from March 5th through the 11th, and above average precipitation is expected into the western US and eastern US, with near normal precipitation into the central US, and then even below average precipitation expected into the north central US and south central US for that 8 to 14 day range. So now looking at some of the operational weather models, and we'll be first looking at the European weather model, and then we'll eventually look at the GFS and probably the AI European weather model as well. And then after that, we'll look at some of the ensembles for more of the kind of long range discussion. So first we're looking at the European weather model. Again, not a whole lot going on really today on Tuesday. Some moisture up here into the northeastern US, as well as a low pressure starting to move across the central US by early on Wednesday. And so you could have some showers associated with that. But then the further that low pressure gets to the east, you could see some intensification, but deepening of that low pressure just a slight bit. And some areas could see snow into the Great Lakes region as well as the northeast. And I would not be surprised if Vermont, New Hampshire, even Maine gets a quick hitting snow event maybe sometime early on Thursday. And then by Thursday evening, that low pressure finally starts to move on out, and you still have some snow, back end snow that is, into some of the areas into the northeast, even by early on Friday, but most of that should be about moved out by at least Friday afternoon. And then we see another low pressure here diving down from Canada on Friday into the Great Lakes region, and this could also be a quick hitting snow event for some of these areas into even the Great Lakes region, but mainly the northeast. Once again, pretty much the same areas for that low pressure prior to this one on Thursday and Friday. And this is going to be mostly just a light to moderate snow event, but mostly moderate as that low pressure finally moves out. And then by basically Sunday, quite a bit of those areas would be pretty much free of any precipitation. But it looks like on the European that we'll probably see a little bit of a cool down with this system, or with these systems, I should say. And you'll have some cold air, as you can see in the blue contours there, where we're going to have just slightly colder than average temperatures move into these areas for just a short period amount of time, especially into the northeastern U.S., where those temperatures could be quite a bit below average, especially with the snowpack in place. And then our focus shifts more towards the central U.S. by early next week, as we could see a strong system start to move in by even late Sunday night, even into early on Monday. And if we look here, we have the latest 12Z European, and if it gets this system out here into the central U.S., and it is a pretty dynamic system with a snow band all the way up into Canada, snow all the way out here into portions of the Rockies. And I think this is where we're going to see a potential severe weather setup maybe sometime next week, maybe towards the middle of next week. And we can't get into these small details at this time because it is a little bit far out, but the signal is there for some sort of strong system next week. And again, I do think this is going to be a very dynamic system with severe weather, maybe some mixed in with snow up well to the north, not with the severe weather, but snow up to the north of that low pressure. And I think this could be a very impactful system for some of these areas, especially with the potential severe weather side if this were to kind of play out like the European is showing. But that would finally start to really impact the areas by early next week, the early to middle portion of next week. And that would finally move out. And I think we could see another maybe quick hitting cool down with that, as that system would move out if we do see a strong system like the European weather model is showing. And so now we'll look at the GFS, and I don't think it's really too far out where we can see this system as well, but we'll go back to the GFS eventually. And so same thing with those upcoming systems later this week into this weekend into the northeast. And the latest GFS does finally show that low pressure there by late Monday night and early on Tuesday. But again, we can't go any farther past this because the run is still loading. So we'll go ahead and look at the ensembles, or actually we'll look at the AI European model as well. And I have not really looked at it, so we'll see what it shows. So it is again pretty similar with these upcoming systems later this week, again into this weekend. And also the European AI model will not show any of the wintry precipitation. It'll only show the green, yellow, red, and pink colors representing high rates of precipitation the farther you go up here into the yellows, oranges, reds, and kind of pinks and purples. So if we get this into Monday and then eventually Tuesday, it already has a extremely strong system by Tuesday morning, and by this point that is again pretty strong system, at least for this time of year. And with the location of this would definitely promote a severe weather threat if this were to play out. So that has it as a 985 millibar low pressure by Wednesday morning, and then that would get that up and move it on up into Canada by Thursday. And again, if this were to play out like the European AI model is showing, I think we could again see a dynamic system with snow further to the north of that low pressure and severe weather further into the southern areas of the U.S., especially if we get a moisture return. And the moisture return is not as great as the European, I don't think, but it still shows a little bit of moisture there into the southern U.S. and even southeast as we get into the middle portion of next week. So again, we can't really get into this very small details with the system because it is far out, and once we get to this weekend we can really start to break it down a little bit more. But that is really all we're going to look at for the operational weather models. Now finally looking at the EPS ensembles here, and so starting out today on Tuesday, as you can see, we have some slight troughing up here into the kind of Great Lakes region, into portions of the Northeast, with ridging into quite a bit of the central and western U.S. And then as we get later into this week, again, we could have that system that moves into the Northeast that would allow for the troughing to move in as well, and that would deliver below average temperatures for that short period of time, kind of late this week into this weekend, with those systems with above average temperatures out to the west, with the ridging and the red colors here. And so if we continue this on here, by Sunday, you still have troughing into quite a bit of the northeastern and eastern U.S., especially into the mid-Atlantic, and ridging finally moving into the central U.S. just for a short period of time by Monday. And then as you can see right here, here's our not big, but major system early next week. And then finally by midweek, you can really start to see that system show up on the ensembles. And that would again be troughing there into the central U.S. with that system moving through. And again, I think after we get this system that'll move through maybe sometime in the middle of next week, we could see a slight cool down into at least a decent chunk of the eastern U.S., I would say, just for I would say a short period of time. But I don't think we'll see the above average temperatures we've been seeing kind of over the past day or two, and we'll see for the next couple of days. I just don't think we'll be seeing those for long as we get kind of further into March. But again, that troughing just kind of stays into the U.S. by next week, and then even by not this weekend but next weekend, it's still hanging on into the eastern U.S. and even northwestern U.S. But after that it is kind of up in the air, just because it is pretty far out, and we'll just have to see what happens as we get closer to this. But again, I think that is going to be our main concerns for the next couple of weeks, I would say, with our maybe potential severe weather threat next week. And then after that, we'll just have to see how the pattern plays out. But I think by next week, we'll definitely get into a more active period compared to what we've been seeing, especially across the central and eastern United States. So that'll be it for today's update. I appreciate all of y'all watching, and I'm going to try to have another video out maybe later this week. If not, then I'll have one out this weekend. And I appreciate all of my viewers who have continued to watch my forecast updates. I really do appreciate y'all. But I hope y'all have a great rest of y'all's Tuesday and a great rest of y'all's week.